You get clues from another time. And I decided to have fun with our audience and set a great portion of it on board the Titanic with Milton rubbing elbows with the characters that we identify with, the Thayers, the Guggenheims, etc., and make them characters. So we do have fun in the same way that we have fun watching them on in Jim Cameron's Titanic. We get to watch these beloved historical characters interact, but also in the present day, which is sort of set up like an Odd Couple situation, because this sort of repressed Edwardian man finds himself waking up in the body of a young Gothamite who is outgoing and flamboyant and promiscuous and really on the scene in modern day Manhattan.
Welcome to Season 3 of Titanic Talk. Nelson Aspen and Alexandra Boyd launch once again onto the digital airwaves with some very special event episodes. Here we feature stories from the independent documentary Ship of Dreams Titanic Movie Diaries and continue to explore all aspects of the iconic ship. From James Cameron's epic, groundbreaking movie to the history and legacy of Titanic herself. Actors, historians, authors, descendants and fans come here to talk about Titanic. This is your first-class ticket to everything aboard the Ship of Dreams. Ship of Dreams Titanic Movie Diaries is distributed in the US by Freestyle Digital Media. It's now available to rent or own on Apple TV, Amazon, and many other platforms. Please be sure to like and leave a review.
I'm Nelson Aspen, and we have a strange little podcast episode of Titanic Talk today with a guest that Alexandra and I both know intimately. I really know this guest very intimately, but it's sort of like a twofer. Maybe two guests in one. Maybe Alexandra can put it in a better way. Who's on our list today, Alexandra?
Well, I don't know. I've been looking for my guest lists, and the only person I can come up with is you, Nelson. You are the guest on Titanic Talk. Welcome.
Hey, well, thank you. Or maybe the guest is Milton Long, my long lost reincarnation. So you get two souls in one body, and yes, as we explored in your documentary Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries, I shared with your audience my close connection from a past life per se with first-class passenger Milton Long.
Fascinating connection that is so unusual and so unique and continues to ripple through your life. How can we tell the story? How can we tease the story without giving too much away?
Well, you know, when people talk about reincarnation, it seems like almost always they have been reincarnated from Cleopatra or Napoleon. It's never just Joe Schmo who's walking down the street, an ordinary person with a soul that needs to go on. And as I detail in your documentary, so I won't go into specifics, because if people want the specifics, they need to either buy my new book, A Kindred Spirits, A Titanic Tale, or preferably watch Ship of Dreams Titanic Movie Diaries. But yes, my entire life, which is now up to 61 years, but for all of those decades, I have been having momentary coincidences, serendipitous moments, strange encounters, happenstances, accidents that finally, in the pre-internet age, when you actually had to go to a library and do research, led me to first-class passenger Milton Long. Now, I suppose it would be more dynamic if I had been reincarnated from Molly Brown or Captain Smith or Bruce Ismay.
I think she's already got some takers out there.
Yeah, there are probably 25 Molly Browns, and some of them at a Mardi Gras parade, throwing beads.
If she only knew how many people she had inside her. That came out wrong, but you know what I'm saying.
But yeah, so I have this connection with Milton Long, and I had been looking for an opportunity, especially after the documentary, especially after our podcast, to put it into a literary form. And a conversation with my publisher led me to agree that rather than tell my story, which already exists in your documentary, I would fictionalize it and be able to tell my story, but make it more of a mystery, make it more of a historical fantasy,
I love it.
a genre which I was heretofore unfamiliar with, but it is a very popular genre. And yes, so Kindred Spirits, a Titanic Tale, is a historical fantasy that includes all the
Travel as
elements.
well, right? A time travel. I'm picking up on.
We do vacillate between time and dimension because in many ways that's how it works. You get clues from another time. And I decided to have fun with our audience and set a great portion of it on board the Titanic with Milton rubbing elbows with the characters that we identify with, the Thayers, the Guggenheims, etc., and make them characters. So we do have fun in the same way that we have fun watching them on in Jim Cameron's Titanic. We get to watch these beloved historical characters interact, but also in the present day, which is sort of set up like an odd couple situation because this sort of repressed Edwardian man finds himself waking up in the body of a young Gothamite who is outgoing and flamboyant and promiscuous and really on the scene in modern day Manhattan.
He gets to be himself, does he?
Well, that's just it. Milton perished on the Titanic when he was 29 years old. So I made the protagonist, the modern man into whose body he returns, also 29 years old, who happens to be freaking out about his upcoming 30th birthday, as a lot of 29-year-olds do. So the two of them,
those days.
Yeah. Now double that, and it's nothing. Yeah, I'll worry about turning 70. But it's fun to set things in the world I know of today, modern Manhattan, and in a world I romanticize, the world of the Titanic. And Milton, I believe, as many men of his generation, did not get to recognize their full potential, did not get to live. It was certainly the way with Kate Winslet's character in Titanic is a great example. She was repressed because of the constraints of the time into which she was born. So for Milton, he gets a second chance at life, and the contemporary person sort of carries the baton for him. So that's the setup.
Yes, yes. But still, tell a little bit about how when you introduce yourself to you, and it happened just recently. We're asking people to write reviews for Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries on Amazon, and it goes to IMDb, and there have been some lovely appreciative reviews, and one of them, it's about 3 reviews down, it ends with, and I just loved Milton's stories about all these life coincidences, and she's talking about you. Just tell us a bit about how you keep getting misnamed.
Well, that's very flattering, and I'm glad she enjoyed the film. And you know, my early show business roots were in daytime television, soap operas, and that was a very common issue back in the glory days of soap operas. Viewers would mistake actors for their characters, and you know, they'd send them hate mail. How dare you cheat on your wife, you know, on that TV show? And you know, the lines were blurred. So, but it's nothing new for me to be addressed as Milton. I could go down to the bodega and order like bacon and egg sandwich, and they'll call out, Milton, your sandwich is ready. So it just keeps on coming. It's been a lifelong thing, in addition to so many parallels of Milton's life and my own. And
it's hard to ignore. And well done for using your creative abilities and resources and juices to make a book. It sounds so enjoyable.
Thank you. You're going to enjoy seeing a character named Alexandra Boyd pop up. And what's so divine, and Greg DiNapoli, who is one of our former Titanic Talk guests. He's so talented, and I asked him if he would be generous enough to create an original piece of art for me for the cover, which he did, and I'm so proud to have that represented. Paul Carganilla, who is like our brother from another mother in the Titanic family, wrote the foreword. And then throughout the book, Stephen Schwenkert gave me a cover blurb, which was divine. And then in the book, and I won't do any more spoilers. You guys know who you are. Maybe you should read it to see if you're in there. But I've borrowed from our ever-expanding Titanic community to place them in the book. So there are cameos from the real people we know, and also great fun. When you're writing a fantasy, there are. I mean, you have to establish rules of your parallel world. Yes, you must have your rules of engagement.
Tropes.
But you also can
tropes, Nelson.
Yes.
Tropes.
And you can do what you want in some ways. So I can take characters from the Titanic and pull them in a ghost story kind of way and pull them into today's world as well. So if you enjoy the Titanic, if you enjoy history or fantasy, and ultimately it's a love story. And one review kindly said it's one of the most unusual love stories you'll ever read. And I love, I'm a romantic. I'm also a little naughty in a Jackie Collins kind of way. So I get to write a love story and infuse it with contemporary adult situations.
It's a little saucy, I think you're saying.
It's a little saucy. Lloyd Burr, remember our friend Lloyd Burr from New Zealand?
Yes.
He said, this is what it would be like if Grindr had been on the Titanic.
Well, now listen, you have set us up perfectly because I have not read it yet, but I'm going to read it because I'm going to get my copy at Titanic Weekend in Long Beach on the Queen Mary, because you're going to be there signing copies. I'm going to be there signing DVDs and headshots and other charming things that people would like to indulge in and talking about the film. We'll have some diary readings, but a number of these people you're talking about will also be there. So Paul Carganilla is organizing the whole thing. Greg DiNapoli will be there with his extraordinary pencil drawings, and actors from James Cameron's film and my film, Judy and Ellen, the core extras, Rebecca Klingler, Mark Capri, Linda Kearns, we hope will be there, and maybe even a few that haven't quite inked their agreement yet. We are going to be in the most fun and most extraordinary company in real life, as opposed to Zooming, which is we've become so used to doing over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to find out really who's tall and who's not. Like, I saw a photograph. Our friend Don Lynch is going to be there, and I saw a picture of him, and he looks very tall.
Very tall, but maybe Judy's short.
It could be. It's very exciting. James Penka will be there.
Yes.
Just so many of our Titanic universe things. And, that's why I loved having Paul and Greg involved with the book, because, hey, if they want to sign the book too, they can sign the book. We'll all have Sharpies on us the whole time.
Tell me where else you're going to be doing book signings. It's not just there.
Yeah, well, we're kicking it off on the Queen Mary for Titanic Anniversary Weekend. From there, I'll go to Los Angeles. And on the actual day of the sinking anniversary, April 15th, I'll be at the Four Seasons in Los Angeles doing an event there. I've got it all on my website. It's all there for everybody's edification. Then I will be going on to Boston to the Titanic exhibition at one point, and London. And that's in May. And then the big sort of granddaddy event, a couple in New York, one in Baltimore. The granddaddy event will be in Belfast at the end of May at the Titanic Hotel, Museum, Distillery.
In the drafting room.
I will actually be. This is so cool. They were so generous to me to offer me to have my signing. It's called the Office Bar Number 2. There were 2 rooms in which the Titanic was designed and built. One of them is now a bar, and I really do enjoy a book signing where I can have a martini in one hand and a Sharpie in the other. So that will be the plan. And the Titanic Distillery, I'm going to get to understand all these good Irish whiskeys and spirits. Oh, spirits! They actually told me. I'm not kidding. They told me they make a brand called Kindred Spirits. So we're going to devise a Kindred Spirits cocktail for my book signing.
Oh my gosh, that's just brilliant.
Yep. Oh, and I'll see our good pal, Dr. Michael Martin from the
Yes,
Titanic
so,
Trail. He's
yes.
actually I'm gonna see him while I'm over there. And he, this is, I don't want to spoil anything, but he is another character in the book, and which figures quite prominently into the intrigue, because there is an element of a mystery that our heroes must solve together.
I do like that. We started off here, well, I started off 27 or 8 years ago being cast in James Cameron's Titanic, cast because of the help you gave me. And so time goes on, life goes on, and here we are, we're gathering around. I think there's been this, I know there's always been interest in Titanic, in the history, and there's always been interest in the film. But my particular reintroduction to this world and then an expansion has really been in the United States. But now with you going over to London, and we've just connected with the British Titanic Society, and we're going to be planning something with them, it feels like the ripple effect will go on and on. And I can't tell you how it warms the cockles of my heart, as we say, to be thinking about the actual endless ongoing possibilities of your book, of potentially a book of our diaries, of the film. Once a film is made, once a book is written, it's out there forever, and it will keep reconnecting us with people. At least that's what I hope.
Well, there's also the cliche of do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And when you don't have any money in the bank and you're trying to get your life started as a young actor or whatever it is you're striving to do, it's pretty hard to believe that or digest that even. And exactly what you're saying, as a child Titanic buff, as a lifelong ocean liner enthusiast, to be at the age of 61 generating Titanic content, which just fills me with delight and bemusement and new friendships, ongoing friendships. How many new young friends have we made, which just perpetuates, this enthusiasm for Titanic will go on, and we are getting to do what we love, and it's also professional. It's personal and it's professional.
It's personal, professional. Yes, we were talking about it the other day, weren't we, with Stephen Schwankert on his second appearance on Titanic Talk, which is lovely to have a returning guest. He was talking about his book, The Six, and that eternal question of why. There have been other wrecks, there have been other ships that have sunk tragically and claimed many lives, but for some reason the romance and the tragedy and the time in history, I think, when we were talking to Gareth Russell about the Edwardian era, about how the sinking of the Titanic signaled the end of that, and of course right before the First World War, which changed everything, especially in Europe, is that it must be something to do with that, like the time in history. And then decades and decades later, James Cameron, who's also the definitive authority on Titanic history, happens to have a few filmmaking skills, and makes a movie that just blows Hollywood and the world open to more about Titanic. And now people who loved that film when they were young are introducing it to their children. So there's there will forever be a new generation of people who are encapsulated by the story, all of it.
My buddy's friend is a senior in high school, and what was their high school play this year? Titanic, the musical. You would never have a high school musical about the Challenger explosion or 9/11, but the disaster of the Titanic. Yes, we strive very hard to be respectful to the memory of that terrible night, and yet it captivates us in a romantic way, in a way that we want to continue to tell its story, interpret its story, find new ways to tell its story. We were laughing off camera about this cartoon version of Titanic, some animated film that had little
There's more than
Disney-esque
one.
mice
There's more
and
than
squirrels
one. Yes.
and spoiler alert, no one dies in
Oh,
the child's
goodness.
cartoon version of Titanic because, of course. So yeah, it's a remarkable thing, but yes, it goes on, and I would venture to say that Dr. Robert Ballard's discovery of the wreck in the late '80s may have, it certainly did for James Cameron, stimulate his interest in it because of the oceanography aspect to it, but it did reignite a Titanic fandom for the world.
Indeed.
And who knows what the next thing will be. Also, the Titanic it's not that far in the past that we can disassociate from it. We could still theoretically have a great grandparent that was there. You know, it's not that far away. What's 100 years now?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm thinking of other disasters though, and loss of life, which potentially could have been prevented. We also haven't talked about the hubris of, this was not going to sink. This was going to make the course between the UK and New York in record time, and all that money and all of that could not save them. Your money's no use now. I think we live in a time like that now, where
Plenty of hubris to go around. I mean,
plenty to go around. But it and the parallels, as we've talked about too before, with James Cameron's film, they were having to slash the budget left and right because this took too long, or the costumes and the first class dining room, that 3-story grand staircase, it cost so much money. And the naysayers in Los Angeles were saying to us the small minions, cash your paycheck, because it's not going to make any money, this film. It's going to be the next Waterworld. It's going to, he's overreached himself one too many times, and they could not have been more wrong. I know I tell that story, and some people, Rebecca's like, oh no, I had a feeling, that it would be something. Don Lynch, we never heard that. Well, no, because we're on the inner circle. Those of us on the outer circle were like, this is just fun. This is just lovely. And then like I said, the ripple effect over the years, and dining out on the stories, or creating a film, or creating a book, to bring it back to that again. What a treat. What a gift we have all been given.
I can't name any other films from that year. Can you? I mean, it was just the Titanic that year. That was the film. I mean, if I go to the movies 8 times in a year, that particular year, it was 8 times I went to see Titanic at the Beverly Center.
Yeah.
So it must have been a great accident of timing as well. And we would never. Leo and Kate would only have been that age, that look, that place in their careers at that particular time.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I bump into Titanic loving people almost wherever I go. My doctor the other day, I just mentioned, I have to do this thing because my film has just been released. And I told her a bit about it. She stood back, with her mask on. My sister and I watched that video.
Which kind of doctor was this? You want to be careful what kind of procedure you're getting.
Gosh, they're always wearing masks now. Randomly, I have a crew jacket, which if you come to Queen Mary, I'll bring it with me and you can try it on and have a photograph. But I have a lovely crew jacket, and it was cold, and I grabbed it one day and I went to the supermarket. Now, I live in a remote part of Washington, across the Puget Sound from Seattle. I'm in Safeway. I'm at the self-checkout, so you can see my back, which has the Titanic embroidered on it. And this guy goes to me, what's that? I was like, oh, it's my crew jacket. Oh, yeah, my crew jacket from Titanic. So, who are you then? I said, well, I had a tiny part. He didn't believe, I don't think he believed me at all. But he turned out to be somebody who had been down to the wreck.
No.
And I tried to invite him on Titanic Talk, but he wasn't interested in that at all. He was probably some, Microsoft billionaire who's retired to the country. And here we are checking out at the same self-checkout. And he goes, "What's that Titanic jacket?"
It's part of the vernacular. I was, when we say, I mean, you hear almost every day somewhere someone saying it's the tip of the iceberg. Well, that expression probably wouldn't even exist had it not been for Titanic. And
rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
I was going to say, I think it was the vice president was yelling at somebody on television the other day, and he said, "You're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic." I mean, you see the Titanic and you know it's the Titanic. It's not one of these other cruise ships with the pink and yellow water slides on top. Titanic is iconic. The word, the name is iconic. It's one in a zillion.
It is, and it's no sign of stopping. And here we are to, like I said, to spread the word, to spread the love, to bring people together.
Well, and that was interesting. I don't think there will be a sequel to this book because
everybody dies.
Spoiler alert. But I felt a sense of sadness when I had to say goodbye to my character of Milton. There wasn't much known about Milton Long's true life, so I had the freedom to imagine what it might have been, what it was when he was here, and what it might have been had he survived. So it was a fun exercise for me as a writer to do that. But I miss him, and I've come to feel a real affection for him as a character, not just as somebody who might be inside of me. I hope Milton's having as much fun in this incarnation as I'm having.
Oh, I'm sure he is. If like you said, it's all caveated by if you believe in that sort of thing. But I think you have a very strong case, a very strong argument that there's something going on. There's some connection, and long may it continue, I would say. And you haven't said goodbye to him because you're doing all these signings, and so people should look out for you and get a signed copy when they get to meet you.
I hope so. Jump onto Amazon and you can get your copy there. And my darling Alexandra, after all these decades of our friendship and in getting to work together in a Titanic capacity, proves to me that you and I are kindred spirits, and how lucky we are.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you.
I love you.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review. And if you'd like to hear more podcasts like this, hit the subscribe button. For information on where you can see Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries, go to shipofdreamsfilm.com. Titanic Talk is a production of Ship of Dreams Film Limited. We've launched a line of Titanic Talk merch. A cap, a mug, a tote, a t-shirt or a hoodie. You'll be sure to find a unique gift for the Titaniac in your life. Look for the link in the notes and on Instagram, or go to bit.ly/Titanic Talk Shop.